All praises to the Most High. Back again for the second night. I know that this should be shocking because it's been a minute since I was able to do back to back to back to back. Tonight we're going to cover my second subject. Let me see how I'm sounding. Yeah, okay. Loud as usual. Country. It's all good. I'm going to cover the four horsemen. Now, y'all give me a moment. Give me a moment to get the other people in. Okay. So, one sec. Let me see here. All right, we're finna go to Clubhouse. All right, let's see here. I should be able to pin the link. Did the pin the link work? In fact, hold on. Hold on. The pin the link. Give me 1 second. Uh, Pin the link. Ah man, what is going on? I don't know what's happening right now. Okay, there we go. Yeah, okay. Okay. I think we should be about ready to start with everything. Shalom to everyone that's in the room. Shalom, brother Bless. How you doing? All praises to the Most High. Shout out to the full preterists that's taking over all social media. All social media. We are on. Sorry, y'all. I'm talking like this because I'm finally getting everything else set up. We're on all platforms. We are on Clubhouse, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. So we're rocking on all platforms. And what we will be addressing tonight would be the explanation of the four horsemen. Lecture format style, as you know it. The other rooms, the four preterists, we do more of open dialogue. I'm the born one of the group. I like lecture format. So we're going to be doing lecture format today about the four horsemen and explaining in detail what the four horsemen is all about. So if y'all want to invite people inside of the room, please do. Um, Before I start, does anybody want to say anything before this thing gets started? All righty. First thing first, we're going to go to the understanding of when the the how can I put it? the government of Israel was created. We're going to go to the government of Israel when it was created. This information right here is vital to understanding the four horsemen. So we're going to go to Josephus today. Yes, Josephus. We're going to start with him first for our background knowledge, and we're going to build upon the foundation that Josephus brought out, speaking about the government that was given to Israel while they were in the wilderness. So, Antiquity of the Jews, Book 4, Chapter 8. Antiquity of the Jews, Book 4, Chapter 8. If you're on my YouTube, which is at the top, you will be able to see it live once I actually share my screen, which I should have been doing. All right, so now we are sharing the screen. Josephus, Antiquity of the Jews, Book 4, Chapter 8, Section 2, which is right here. If you got the book, the hard copy book, we're going to be starting at line 190. It's going to be found on page 136. That's if you got the hard copy. Lines 190. So let's see if I can find it in this PDF, since it don't have any line numbers. Okay, so here we go right here. I'm going to highlight exactly everything that I am about to read. Okay, so we have it right here. It says this: since when, hold on, let me get back in. And y'all got a new phone, so that's why it's taking me a little bit time to maneuver through this. It says this: since when you shall have once proceeded so far by your wealth as to contempt and disregard of virtue, you will also forfeit the favor of God. So he's saying that them being so wealthy, they're going to start being evil. They're not going to have a regard for virtue anymore. He says, and when you have made him your enemy, so they eventually, when they start disregarding virtue, they become the enemy of God. Okay, so it's not no longer the nations, they become the enemies of God when they begin to disregard virtue. He says this: you will be beaten in war and will have the land which you possess taken away again from you by your enemies. And this with great reproaches upon your conduct. You will be scattered over the whole world and will, as slaves, entirely fill both sea and land. And whence once you have had the experience of what I now say, you will repent and remember the laws you have broken when it is too late. So we get it first. It was explained to Israel that eventually, through their own actions, they will become the enemies of God. And when they become his enemies, they would be beaten in war. Okay, people? This is about war. Beaten in war, and the land that they went to possess would be taken away from them. Okay? So this has nothing to do with Africa or none of that stuff. They don't got nothing to do with that. Or the trend, the slave coast trade, none of that. This is the land of Canaan being taken from them via the oath. Now, in the same chapter, we're going to go to section 44, lines 302 and 303. So let me find it in the hard copy. Because this is also going to be of importance. Section 44, right there. Okay, found it. So now let me find it in the hard copy. Once again, if you want to see what it looks like, you got to go to the YouTube channel and it will show exactly. So we're at section 44, Antiquity of the Jews, book 4, chapter 8, section 44. We're going to read lines 302 and 303. It's page 147 if you have the hard copy book. This is what is stated. So let me find it right here first. Let's see, right here. After this curse. Sorry, y'all. There we go, right here. It's kind of hard to maneuver through the PDF since they don't have line numbers. But, you know, we're making it work. This is what it says right here. After this, curses were denounced upon those that should transgress those laws, they answering one another alternately by way of confirmation of what had been said. Moses also wrote their blessings and their curses that they might learn them so thoroughly that they might never be forgotten by length of time. And when he was ready to die, he wrote those blessings and curses upon the altar on each side of it, where he says also the people stood and then sacrificed and offer burnt offerings, though after that day they never offered it upon any sacrifice. Okay, so let's go to section 46 now. So we see that he's giving them the blessings and curses, the things that will befall them if they transgress the laws that they just agreed to. So this is the end right here. This is section 46, 313, line 313 through 314. This will be the end of the background knowledge that we have to know before we get into understanding what the four horsemen in the book of the Revelation represent. So this is what's stated right here. Antiquity of the Jews, book 4, chapter 8, section 46. We're going to read lines 313 through 314. It says this. Their land, in fact, I'm going to start up to 312. Joshua also prophesied while Moses was present. And when Moses had recapitulated whatsoever he had done for the preservation of the people, both in their wars and in peace, and had composed them a body of laws and procured them an excellent form of government, he foretold, as God had declared to him, that if they transgressed that institution for the worship of God, they should experience the following miseries. Now let's listen to what's supposed to befall Israel if they transgressed that covenant. He says this: their land should be full from afflictions, that they would then repent. When that repentance would no way profit them, under their sufferings. Yet, said he, will that God who founded your nation restore your cities to your citizens with their temple also, and you shall lose these advantages not once only, but often. So he explained that in fact they were to lose, they were to go through these curses often as they transgressed. As often as they transgressed, they were to go through these curses. Now, there's one more thing that I wanted to bring out. Let's see if I underlined it or not. Let's see here. 302 and 303. Let's see here. And if I didn't underline it, I'll see if I can find it later on. But in other words, he was talking about the song of Moses. And he's explaining that Moses wrote these things. Let's see if I can find it real fast. And if I can't, I'm gonna continue on. But I think it's one more of the things that help set the tone of how important understanding the curses in the law of Moses was to Israel. And if I didn't underline it, then it is what it is. But I thought I did. Let's see here. Oh, law, the Constitution. But anyway, he said that Moses and I don't find I read it, but I guess I was moving so fast I did not underline it. So, but he was saying that um, Moses gave this understanding in song format. After he told it to them, he sung it to them. Once again, he explained that after Moses told the children of Israel the law, he then sung it to them. But that's something that if you don't believe it, you can Google it later. That's why we have the Song of Moses. But anyway, so this is the background of understanding the four horsemen. It was explained that destruction would come upon Israel in the land of Canaan if they broke the covenant. So now let's start going into detail about the four horsemen and what they have to do with the song of Moses and the curses of Moses. The curses that's found in the law of Moses. So this is the first thing first. Let's get some more information on how the Lord explained he was going to judge them for their wickedness. So we're going to be looking from the Brenton. We're going to go into the book of Ezekiel. The book of Ezekiel, chapter 14, verse 21. I want everyone, this is what you got to listen to, because this will in fact be your background of the four horsemen. Ezekiel 14 and 21. Thus said the Lord, and if I send upon Jerusalem my four sore judgments. How many judgments does the Lord have that he send? Four. My four sore judgments. Then he named them. Sword and famine an evil beast, and pestilence, to destroy from out of it man and beast. What are the four sore judgments again? Sword, famine, evil beasts, and pestilence. You got to know those. It's only four judgments that the Lord sent against Jerusalem for violation of the covenant. Now, let's begin to break these things down. First of all, he said sword, right? He's going to send a sword upon Jerusalem. This is when the Song of Moses come into play. Deuteronomy 32:25 states this: without, which means outside, the sword shall bereave them of children, and terror shall issue out of the secret chambers. The young man shall perish with the virgin, the suckling with him who has grown old. So in the Song of Moses, one of the judgments that was supposed to be sent against Israel in their last days was the sword. Here's Leviticus 26, speaking about this same judgment. Leviticus 26:25. And I will bring upon you a sword, avenging the cause of my covenant. So this is a covenant judgment. And ye shall flee for refuge to your cities. And I will send out death against you. We're going to come back to this one. And you shall be delivered into the hands of your enemies. So the sending of sword was the Lord avenging the cause of his covenant. When they broke the covenant, he prophesied he was going to send the sword against them. Revelation 6. Revelation 6, verses 3 and 4 states this: and when he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, come. And out came another horse, bright red. Its rider was permitted to take peace from the earth, so that the people should slay one another, and he was given a great sword. He was given a great sword. So, coincidence? We're going to find out as we progress. It was explained in Ezekiel, the Lord has four judgments that he was going to send against Jerusalem for violation of the covenant. He stated in the Song of Moses, he was going to send the sword against Jerusalem for violating the covenant. And now, one of the horsemen in the Revelation is given a great sword, and the result of it is people slaying one another. So, I'm here to prove that the four horsemen of the apocalypse is symbolic for the four sore judgments the Lord sends out against Jerusalem. Let me say that again. I'm going to prove that the four horsemen of the apocalypse is only the four sore judgments the Lord sent out personified, allegorized. He's speaking as if they are human in nature. That's what personification is. The judgments are being personified. The judgment that came with violating the law of Moses. So now, let's go to the next horseman. But first, what did Ezekiel say? The sword, then the famine. The sword, then the famine. Well, once we go to the Song of Moses, Deuteronomy 32, verse 24. Listen to what the Bible says. They shall be consumed with hunger and the devouring of birds, and there shall be irremediable destruction. I will send forth against them the teeth of wild beasts with the rage of serpents creeping on the ground. We're going to talk about that part later on. But here you see in the Song of Moses, it was prophesied one of the judgment that was going to come against Jerusalem for violating the covenant was famine. They shall be consumed with hunger. Deuteronomy 28, which is the blessing and curses. If people don't understand, the Song of Moses in Deuteronomy 32 is just a song explaining the curses in Deuteronomy 28. Let me say that again. The Song of Moses in Deuteronomy 32 is the symbolic, highly symbolic, poetic way of expressing the curses of Deuteronomy 28 in song format. Relax, the Bible does that a lot. So, this is what's said in Deuteronomy 28:15 first, just in case we need to hear that understanding. But it should come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe all his commandments, as many as I charge thee this day, then all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. All right? Now, once we scoot down to verse number 20, listen to what it says. The Lord send upon thee want and famine and consumption of all things on which thou shalt put thy hand, until he shall have utterly destroyed thee, and until he shall have consumed thee quickly because of thine evil devices, because thou hast forsaken me. So what was the Lord going to send on them dealing with the curses? Famine. What did the Song of Moses say was going to come upon Israel for violating the covenant? Famine. Revelation 6, verses 5 and 6. When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a black horse, and its rider had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard what seemed to be a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, a quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and wine. So you see now, they are getting little amounts of food for the money that they have. AKA, food is scarce, a famine is occurring. A famine is occurring. So is it a coincidence that another of the 4 horsemen is actually a judgment that the Lord said was going to come upon Jerusalem, come upon the land of Canaan and Israel inside of it if they violated the covenant. Coincidence? I think not. Once again, I'm proving that the four horsemen is just the judgments, the curses that was supposed to befall Israel in the land of Canaan for violating the covenant. That's all it is. That's all they are. They're not no aliens. They're not no demons. They're not no robots. None of that. That's not what it is. It's just the judgment personified, written in literary devices, written in poetic, symbolic language. Highly symbolic. And it did its job. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir, indeed. Let's continue on proving it. Now, as Ezekiel stated, the third one was he's going to send evil beasts in the land. Deuteronomy 32. Deuteronomy 32, back to the Song of Moses. Deuteronomy 32, starting at 24. They shall be consumed with hunger and the devouring of birds, and there shall be irremediable destruction. Listen to the next part. I will send forth against them the teeth of wild beasts, with the rage of serpents creeping on the ground. Deuteronomy 28, 26. And your dead men shall be food to the birds of the sky and to the beasts of the earth, and there shall be none to scare them away. Hold on. Revelation 6. Revelation 6 and 8. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and its rider's name was Death and Hades. We're going to come back to this later on, because this is what is destroying people in their understanding in Revelation 20. But its rider was named Death, and Hades followed him. And listen to what it says. And they were given authority over a fourth of the earth. Everybody, a fourth. 1/4. There's 4/4 to make a whole. So this is showing that this is designated for a certain location. Let me say it again. Over a fourth of the earth. Earth in Greek means region, land. They understood this when the translators translated this hundreds of years ago. Their earth also represented regions and land. In the 21st century, our earth represents the entire globe. So this is when we're getting into problems understanding what's being stated. Their earth isn't talking about the entire globe or disc or however you want to say it. It's talking about a territory, a region. So he said 1/4. That means 3/4 is safe. So the 1/4, a designated place inside of the region, is going to experience this, aka Jerusalem, inside of the land of Canaan. But let's keep going on. And they were given authority over a fourth of the earth to kill with sword. That's a horseman. And with famine. pestilence, we ain't talked about that one yet, and by wild beast of the earth. And by wild beast of the earth. Now, once you go to Revelation 9, Revelation 9, 7, and 8 says this. In appearance, the locusts were like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were like crowns of gold. Their faces were like human faces. Their hair like women's hair. And their teeth like lions' teeth. What did the Song of Moses say? I'm going to send the teeth of beasts upon you. What does it say here in Revelation 9? Their teeth were like lions' teeth. Revelation 6, dealing with the 4 horsemen, we find out one of the horsemen uses wild beasts of the earth. Are we seeing it yet? These are the judgments of the Lord being personified. It's not a literal demon on a horse riding around doing stuff. That's not what this is about. That's not what this is about. That's a figment of your imagination for not understanding scriptures, but that's not what this is about. So he's going to kill with wild beasts. In fact, I think we can go to the Targums. Let me see if I can go to the Targums real fast, because I actually did this in my debate to show how the Aramaic speaking Jews viewed Deuteronomy 32. Because in our version of Deuteronomy 32, it says the teeth of wild beasts. So let me see if I can find Deuteronomy 32 real fast in the Targums. This is the ancient world giving their commentary on what is actually being stated here. So Deuteronomy 32, let me see the verse I need to be looking at. And this is going to explain to you all what the quote unquote teeth of wild beast actually represented. Okay? Because right now your mind could be anywhere. Your mind could be vampires, werewolves, genetically modified animals, and all that other sci-fi channel breakdown. But let's see what the Targums actually explain with Deuteronomy 32 verse number 24 is all about. Let's see if I can find it real fast in the Targums. Deuteronomy 32:24. It states this. Now listen, let me read what we have, and then I'm going to read how the Targums explain it. It says this. This is what we have. They shall be wasted with hunger and devoured by plague and poisonous pestilence. This is coming from the ESV, not the Brenton. But anyway, I will send the teeth of the beast against them with the venom of things that crawl in the dust. Now, let's un-sci-fi channel these verses to see what the ancient world actually thought they meant. Deuteronomy 32:24 from the Targums. I will make them go into captivity in Media and Elam, in the captivity of Babel, the house of Agag, who are like demons gaping with famine, and to corpses devoured by birds, and to stricken evil spirits of the noon, to linen and to spirits big with evil, and the Javanese Greeks who bite with their teeth like wild beasts will I sin against them. and will shake them by the hand of the Syrians, venomous as basilisks, the serpents of the dust. So according to the Targums, the teeth of the wild beast that was supposed to be sent against Jerusalem in the last days would be the Javanese, aka the Greeks. Now we know that a person can be called by their father. Therefore, the Romans, the Kittim, being sons of the Javanese, sons of the Greeks, they can be classified as Greeks because Greeks, the Javanese, would be their forefather. See, I brought this out in my debate. So, when you see the words, the teeth of beast, understand that these beasts and these teeth actually represented a nation. And this nation would be the Greeks and their descendants. These are the ones that were supposed to come upon Israel in the last days. See? No more Sci-Fi Channel. No more aliens. No more vampires. No more werewolves. No more genetically modified animals. No androids. No machines. No Terminator War. None of that. Just regular nations written in poetic symbolism. Welcome to the Bible. See, the Bible makes sense when people stop being so superstitious, creating these doctrines, creating these animals, creating these understandings. This isn't the understanding of the ancient world about zombies and spaceships. That's not what they was thinking about. That's what people do today because they have divorced themselves from the ancient way of talking and thinking. So now we see the evil beast also represent one of the four horsemen. Is it a coincidence that this is also a judgment spoken of in the law, in the curses of the law and the Song of Moses that was supposed to befall Israel if they violated the old covenant? I think not. So what's the last one? Pestilence. And after this, I will open it up before I go to my second part, which is talking about death being destroyed in the Revelation and what exactly that is talking about. Because I heard last night that if four preterists saying death has been destroyed in Revelation 20, then we should have eternal life right now and not die physically. And I'm thinking in my head, you don't even know what death is talking about in Revelation 20 for you to even start making those claims. You have no idea what's going on in the Revelation. But let's go into, this will be the last one before I open it up, before I go to the second subject about this death that was destroyed in Revelation chapter 20. And I'm going to prove that it happened 70 AD. Gonna prove it. 100% it happened. But anyway, so the last one, according to Ezekiel 14 and 21, is pestilence. The Lord uses pestilence as a judgment against Jerusalem for violating the covenant. Deuteronomy 32 and 24 again. They shall be wasted with hunger. Hold on, let me go back to the Brenton. Sorry. Let me go back to that Greek. It says, they shall be consumed with hunger and the devouring of birds, and there shall be irremediable destruction. I will send forth against them the teeth of wild beasts with the rage of serpents creeping on the ground. So that's from the Brenton. The ESV states it a little different, but it's saying the same thing. It says this: they shall be wasted with hunger and devoured by plague and poisonous pestilence. I will send the teeth of beasts against them with the venom of things that crawl in the dust. Now, let's go to Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28, 21 through 22 states this: the Lord caused the pestilence to cleave to thee until he shall have consumed thee off the land into which thou goest to inherit it. The Lord smite thee with distress and fever and cold and inflammation and blighting and paleness, and they shall pursue thee until they have destroyed thee. Y'all read that? Let's go to verse 27. The Lord smite thee with the botch of Egypt in the seat, and with a malignant scab and itch, so that thou canst not be healed. Verse 35. The Lord smite thee with an evil sore on the knees and the legs, so that thou shalt not be able to be healed from the sole of thy foot to the crown of thy head. Revelation 6 and 8 again. Revelation 6 and 8. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and its rider name was Death, and Hades followed him. And they were given authority over a fourth of the earth, to kill with sword, and with famine, and with pestilence, and by wild beasts of the earth. Y'all see that right there? And y'all might say, hey, well, he skipped the first horse, the white horse, who had a bow and a crown given to him, and he came conquering and to conquer. What is that? War. War. That's war. That represents war. There's in Deuteronomy 32, he explained how he was going to bring the hostile invasion upon the children of Israel for violating the covenant. He also stated in Deuteronomy 28 how those nations from afar off was going to come and destroy the children of Israel for violating that covenant. But now let's go back to the pestilence, because some things were stated that about this botch of Egypt. And give me 1 sec. 1 sec. Hope everyone is enjoying. So let's go back. All right. So let's look at this botch of Egypt, these sores and etc. that the Lord said was going to come upon these people. Well, what a coincidence. In Revelation 16, verse number 2, so the first angel went and poured out his bowl on the earth, and harmful and painful sores came upon the people who bore the mark of the beast and worshiped its image. Wow. So you mean to tell me in the Revelation that people are receiving sores and etc., just like he said was going to happen to them in Deuteronomy 28 for violating the covenant? You mean to tell, is that a coincidence? Hold on, Revelation 16 is talking about today's time according to the futurists. But it seems like Revelation is really aligning with the curses that was supposed to befall Israel for violating the old covenant. Hey, in fact, the worshiping of the image is a violation against thou shalt not have no other God before me. Thou shalt not make no image of anything above or below. All found in the old covenant. Whoa. Are these coincidences? Is this a coincidence that these things are pointing toward the violation of the old covenant and the judgments that came with it? Is that just a coincidence? Is it really talking about today's time and the microchip and them altering genes and genetics this and the internet that and GMO foods this and that? Is that what Revelation talking about? Or is Revelation talking about this? And then I will open it up before I move to the next subject. Revelation 15:3. And they sing the song of Moses, the servant of God. It's literally telling us right there in the Revelation, they're singing the song of Moses. What is the song of Moses? The poetic, symbolic song that explained how the curses were going to come upon Israel for violating that covenant that they were under. They're not singing the song of Moses because you have to pay land taxes and taxes on your food. Ridiculousness, foolishness. They're not singing the song of Moses because you don't like Christianity. They're not singing the song of Moses because you think Islam is some type of antichrist system. They're not singing it because you think Buddha is an antichrist. They're not singing it because you feel like that the people that follow God today are off and they need to come under your teaching. That's not why they're singing the Song of Moses. The only reason they were singing the Song of Moses was because they violated the old covenant and the punishments had to follow. Welcome to the Bible. All right, y'all. If y'all want to say anything, this is the time before I move on to my second subject, my second demonstration on death, who death is. But hopefully, I showed that the four horsemen are only the four sword judgments of God being personified to come upon Jerusalem for their violation of the old covenant. Thank y'all. If y'all want to say anything, this is the time. Thank y'all for listening in. We got more to come. Thank you, Brother Demetrius. And I heard Brother Demetrius held it down. I will, in fact, after this is over with, I'm going back and listening to the room that him and Brother Bless had. Hey, Brother Bless, what was the name of the name of your room for the people to know if they did not go into it, so they know where to find? And your room name, not to just the subject, but your room in general. I thought it was Jerusalem something. Yeah, my bad. I thought your name was like the city of Jerusalem, but there y'all have it. We definitely and just everybody just go listen to it. Just go listen to it, y'all. And I could be tripping. I could be tripping. So now The New Jerusalem, Christ over everything. Appreciate that, my brother. Go to that room. If you have not, send the invite and listen to last night's lesson. It was full of gems and nuggets. Once again, four preterists doing just what four preterists do, proving how the Bible is real and not a figment of your imagination, full of any day now, any day now, any day now. So now, thank you, my brothers. We finna move into the second segment, Death and Hades, because this is what was stated last night. Y'all know for preterists, we say and we teach and we prove all things have been fulfilled. So someone said this, Revelation 20 and 13. And the sea gave up the dead who were in it. Death and Hades gave up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one of them according to what they had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. So, and then they say, if you guys are saying that death and Hades had already been thrown into the lake of fire, why is people still dying and going to graves? Why aren't they immortal? First of all, individuals, the death and Hades that were thrown into the lake of fire in Revelation 20 and 14 is the same death and Hades that was spoken of in Revelation 6. Revelation 6, here we go, verse number 8. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and its rider's name was Death, and Hades followed him. This is the death and Hades that's the subject of Revelation 20. Everyone, Revelation 20, death and Hades thrown into the lake of fire, is the same death and Hades that was dealing with one of the four horsemen. What does the four horsemen represent? The judgments that was going to come upon Israel for violating the old covenant. And this death and Hades embodied all of the judgments. Let me show you. Revelation 6 and 8. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his rider's name was Death, and Hades followed him. And they were given authority over the fourth of the earth to kill with sword. That's a horse. And with famine. That's another horse. And with pestilence. And by wild beast. Them are other horses of the earth. So the death in Hades is dealing with the judgments that came for violating the law. Now, let me say this before we move on to this death and Hades concept, mainly the death. If death and Hades is dealing with the four judgments that came from violating the law of Moses, and in Revelation 20, death and Hades is destroyed, guess what else is destroyed? The judgments that came with violating the law of Moses, because the law of Moses has been completely annihilated and replaced by the Messiah and his law. This is what you're seeing in Revelation 20 and 14. A destruction of the judgments that came from violating the law of Moses. Because, and you guys can say, hey, that's not right. That's not true. Well, when you go to Revelation 21, it literally states this right here. Revelation 21 and 3. And there shall be no more curse. And there shall be no more curse. Let me say that again. And there shall be no more curse. So if there is no more curse, there's no more things causing curses. You get it? When the death and Hades was destroyed, that destroyed the curse. The judgment that came with violating the law, because the law is no more. Now we're under the law of Christ. But let's go back to death, because we really got to understand what death is being spoken of. And it actually came from the Bible. Okay, everybody. Contrary to popular belief, the New Testament itself, the authors had the Hebrew, they had the Aramaic, they had the Targums, they had some of the Dead Sea Scrolls rendering, and they had the Greek. Now, people would get into it, well, the Greek Septuagint was only the law of Moses. Yes, it started off only being the law of Moses. But by the time the first century had came about, the whole thing had already been translated into Greek, the law and the prophets. So we don't have to do the Septuagint, and it's only the first 5 books of Moses. We don't have to do that dance anymore, because by the time the first century hit, all of it had been translated into Greek. So what you are going to see right now is a connection between the Old Testament Greek and what they call the New Testament Greek. So you're going to see a connection between the what's it called, Konyi, or I forgot, Kanye, Kanyan, whatever it is, that old Greek and an older Greek. And I'll remember the word in a minute. I'm getting older, y'all. Koine. Thank you, Koine. Thank you. Koine Greek. Koine Greek. That's it. Yeah. Oh, praises. Hey, y'all, y'all know how to do with these words. But yeah, the Koine, I didn't mess it up again, but that Greek right there. So let's go back into death. Everyone, the word there for death, you don't have to believe me. You can look it up yourself. The word there for death in Revelation 6, verse number 8 is G2288. Thanatos. 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 That's the word there for Greek. So it says, and his name that sat on him was Thanatos. And hell, Hades, sorry, followed him. This pronunciation is crazy. But it's Thanatos, right? So let's show you where this Thanatos is found at in the Greek Old Testament. If you go to Leviticus 26:25, Leviticus 26:25, from the Greek, well, we have the Brenton, or what some may have as the Septuagint. This is what's rendered in Leviticus 26:25. And thank y'all for the comments on YouTube. I definitely appreciate it. Let's go, RPK all day. All right, so this is what's rendered right here. 26:25. And I will bring upon you a sword avenging the cause of my covenant, and ye shall flee for refuge to your cities. And I will send out death against you, and ye shall be delivered into the hands of your enemies. So the word right there, death, is the same death, the same exact word that's written in Revelation. Death as a horseman here in Leviticus 26 is part of the judgment that the Lord was going to send against them. Now, how do we know this is not talking about physical death? How do we know that the death right here is not NOT talking about physical death? Because this is what he says. And I will send out death against you, and ye shall be delivered into the hands of your enemies. So, if he's talking about physical death, how are they going into captivity? So, are you trying to tell me that he is going to the people? They're going to kill them and take their corpse along with them so they can say, look, everyone, we killed them. And this is our proof. Of course not. Of course, this isn't saying they're taking a lifeless corpse into captivity. But you might be like, no, no, no. That's talking about physical death right there. And the deliver them into their enemies' hands is talking about allowing the enemies to kill them. Well, it's a good thing we have another witness. Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28 and 21 states this. Let me find it. Hold on. Deuteronomy 28:21 states this, and I'm going to read it from my Orthodox because for some reason the Britain left this out, and I'm going to show you that it's actually in the Greek text. So I don't know why the Britain left this part out when translating this. But let me read it from my Orthodox, which is the Greek as well. Deuteronomy 28 and 21 says this: the Lord will make death cling to you until he consumes you from the land to which you are going as an inheritance. The Lord will strike you with perplexity, fever, shivering, irritation, murder, blight, and mildew. These things shall pursue you until you perish. So once again, the Lord will make death cling to you until he consumes you from the land to which you are going to inherit. Okay? So that death right there, it's something that's bringing distress, fever, cold, and inflammation. But before we continue going on in that direction, there's something that happens in the Greek. So if you're on my YouTube channel, look right here in this Deuteronomy 28:21. You'll see the word right here for death. That G2288, the same one that's found in Revelation, that's the same word, right? But in the Greek, right before the word death is tav. So let me see if I can play it out loud. It's ha, sorry, it's called ha. It's spelled like T-O-V, but it says ha. The word ha right there, the T-O-V, it says ha and then Thanos, right? Or Thanatos. It's ha Thanatos. Let's look at what the word ha means in Greek. And I'm going to, if you, I know you probably can't see it. I'm going to say it out loud. I'm going to read it out loud. It's ha, T-O-N, is the masculine singular accusative form of the definite article in ancient and Koine Greek. It means the. It typically functions as the marker for a direct object preceding masculine nouns. It is used when the noun it modifies is the object of the verb. So in other words, for example, they have the Lord. The direct it's a definite article. The Lord. It's that specific Lord, right? So what the Greek has literally is the death. It's the death. So it's supposed to say this: the Lord will make the death cling to you until he consumes you from the land to which you are going as an inheritance. It's the death. It's a specific type of death. It's the definite article. Tav. It's right there. I'm not making it up. Everyone, if you don't believe me right now, go to the Blue Letter Bible and click on and type in Deuteronomy 28:21 in Greek. You will see the TOV before the Thanatos. It's the death. Now, y'all might be saying, why does it matter if it's the death? Because the death could be talking about physical death. That could be the death that they're talking about. Shout out to our big brother Philo of Alexandria. Y'all know the first century BC through first century AD Jew from Alexandria, Egypt, who gave a commentary on the first 5 books of Moses. He wasn't a Christian. He wasn't a church father. Yes, he knew about philosophy. Yes, he knew about the Torah. He was a wise man. And woe and behold, he spoke on this subject about the death, because the death was introduced before Deuteronomy and Leviticus. So we are fin to dive into what the death is and what the death represented in the Revelation as a horseman, what the death that was supposed to cling to those that transgressed the law and consume them off the land. We're finna talk about right now what the death is. And everyone who believes that Adam was cursed with physical death. Oh, let me find my phone. What happened to my phone? I think I lost it. There we go. Here's my phone. Hey, can y'all hear me? Am I picking up? Okay, bet. I appreciate that. For everyone out there, see, full preterists, when we say things, we can prove it. If y'all know anything about me, I'm sourced up from the bottom to the top. When we start talking about the death that Adam went through, people would tell you that's talking about physical death. So if it's talking about physical death, the death that Christ came to do away with has to be physical death. And the death that's going being thrown into the lake of fire has to be physical death. That's only if your understanding of death is correct. Now, we are finna go through this source, and the source is going to explain to you the death that Adam died. Everyone, this is coming from a Jew, okay? A pristine Jew. This ain't coming from an American. This ain't coming from a Jewish man. This ain't coming from a Christian. This ain't coming from a church father. It ain't coming from no full preterist. It ain't coming from the Hebrew Israelites. It ain't coming from anyone from the Nation of Islam. It ain't coming from a Buddhist. It ain't coming from none of them. It's coming from a literal Jew, physical Jew that knew his genealogy, that took time into understanding and explaining the Torah to a nation of people. Not just one person or two people, but the entire Alexandrian community, as well as the Greek community in the land, in the habitable earth during the first century. So this is what he says. You do not have to believe me. Everyone who has a computer, you can look this up right now. I'm finna read it out loud, but you can look it up. Look up Philo of Alexandria, Allegorical Interpretation 1. Philo of Alexandria, or the works of Philo, Philo, Allegorical Interpretation 1. I'm going to read chapter 33. I'm going to read lines 105 through 107. Open up your ears so we can see how this Bible is actually working from the perspective of natural, quote unquote, bloodline Jews. This is what he says, dealing with, this is Genesis. Let me make sure I get the right verse. Genesis 2 and verse number 17. In our version, it says, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, of it you shall not eat. But in whatsoever day you eat of it, you shall surely die. That's the version that we have in the 21st century. Let's read the version they had thousands of years before our version. See, we got the translation of the translation of the translation of the translation. He got the translation of the translation. Or, in fact, he could have had the remnant of the first translation. But we know he has the earlier translation than we have because he wrote in the late BC era, early AD era. So let's look at what his version stated from the Greek. Accordingly, God says, in the day in which you eat of it, ye shall die the death. You shall die the death. So not just only die, we have you shall surely die. That's what we have in our version. In the version that came before our version, the rendering was you shall die the death. Now he's going to go on and explain what all this means. And yet, though they have eaten of it, they not only do not die, but they even beget children and are the causes of life to other beings beside themselves. What then are we to say? Surely that death is of two kinds. See, this is for John. This is before John the Revelator was talking about the second death. This is way before then. He's saying that death is of two kinds. So what he's not finna do, he's not finna use the logic of people today. One day to the Lord is 1,000 years. So he really died in that day because one day to the Lord is 1,000 years. He knew that scripture that came from Psalms, and he did not apply it here. So when you guys start applying it here, I'm telling you, we got proof that that's not what the Jews believe with this passage. So that's something modern. You got that from some church fathers, or you got that from your traditions, or that's what you use for your futuristic doctrine to stick. But that's not what they believed in the ancient world. Let's keep reading. What are we to say then? That surely death is of two kinds. The one being the death of the man. That's what we all talk about, right? When a man dies, the soul leaves the body. He said that's one death. The other, the peculiar death of the soul. Now, the death of the man is the separation of his soul from his body. But the death of the soul is the destruction of virtue and the omission of vice. So we're going to find out which death did Adam die. Did Adam die the death that's dealing with the death of man when the soul leaves the body? Or did Adam die the death of the soul, which is when the soul is given over to the destruction of virtue and the omission of vice, of everything evil, to be evil continually, to think of things evilly, to be embodied with things that misses the mark of God. Let's read what he said Adam died. And consequently, God calls that not merely to die. See, that's what we have in our scriptures. Only he's going to die. See, that's what we got in our scriptures. But no, he said, no, it's not to die, but to die the death, showing that he is speaking not of common death. Let me say that again for all the people who think when the Lord came to do away with death, he came to do away with common death. He came to do away with the death that Adam brought, which was common death. You fall flat on your face. That's not the death that Adam died. He did not come to do away with no common death. I'm going to make this statement and I'm going to continue on reading this source. When Christ said, for God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And he goes on to say, I am the resurrection and the life. Those who were dead shall live, and those who live shall never die. He's not talking about physical death, because the disciples who believed on him died physically. People who have been believing on him has died physically for thousands of years. That's not the death Christ came to do away with. That's not the death, the common death that's being destroyed in the lake of fire. Let's keep reading on. Let's just keep reading. It says this. God calls that not merely to die, but to die the death, showing that he is speaking not of common death, but of that peculiar and a special death, which is the death of the soul, buried in its passions and in all kinds of evil. And we may almost say that one kind of death is opposed to the other kind. For the one is the separation of what was previously existing in combination, namely of body and soul. But this other death, on the contrary, is a combination of them both. The inferior one, the body, having the predominance, and the superior one, the soul, being made subject to it. When therefore God says to die the death, you must remark that he is speaking of that death which is inflicted as punishment, and not of that which exists by the original ordinance of nature. The natural death is the one by which the soul is separated from the body. But the one which is inflicted as punishment is when the soul dies according to the life of virtue and lives only according to the life of vice. See? When the full preterists tell you physical death was always expected to occur, we have proof. You can go to, let me show you what the wisdom of Solomon says. Solomon didn't make that up. A guy who said he was Solomon made it up. That mankind was made right here for immortality. He made it up. Made it up. Made it straight up. Made it straight up. We have the understanding from here, and it goes along exactly what the Bible teaches. That's why they needed the tree of life. But that's something different we can talk about later on. So the death that Adam was presented with was a death of virtue, a death of living according to the will of God. He told Adam, once you partake of this, you will die. You will be separated from me. You remember, as we read in Genesis chapter 6, the Lord said that the imagination of mankind is evil continually. So his soul, his spirit will not always be with them because of the violence they do, the way that they act, and etc. This is a life of death, a life that's uh, uh, um that's being it has been the destruction of virtue in it, when vice overruns it, when it's buried in all kind of arrogance and temptations and my will, not the Lord will, and all kinds of evil. That's the death that had to be destroyed. So this is how, let's go full circle now. Once we go back to Deuteronomy 28, now we realize that the death is dealing with the mindset of being that you're given over to all your wants and desires, which are evil. Who knows the heart? It's evil continually. You're given over to your desires instead of the Lord's desire. So this is what he says in Deuteronomy 28, full circle. Deuteronomy 28:21. And let me read it out of my Brenton again. My Orthodox study. The Lord will make death cling to you until he consumes you from the land to which you are going as an inheritance. So the Lord is he's letting you be your own destruction. You will not mind around a inflammation, paleness. You're going through mental anguish. You're sick. You are never in a state of peace. And that will pursue you until you are taken captive. You will act like wild animals until you are taken captive by your enemies. That's the death that Adam brought in entry. That's the death man. You want to do your will instead of the will of the Lord. It's the things that make you be prideful, the things that make you have evil desires, the things that make you covet, the things that make you rob, the things that make you murder, the things that make you feel like you are right and everybody else is wrong. Those type of things, those are the workings of Satan. The things that deal with you being outside of the will of God. That's what the Lord came to do away with. He came to destroy that so you can be humbled again and go back under the guise of the Lord, for you to be at peace again. So, this is what the hell. So this is what the death that was in the revelation was doing. That death was in Revelation, and look what he did. And they were given authority of the fourth of the earth to kill with the sword, famine, pestilence, wild beasts, which is the bringing in of the other nations and etc. But the point is, all of these things came because people violated the law of Moses. So when they violated the law of Moses, Paul made it plain and clear. He says, let me see it right here. And I thought it was in 1 Corinthians 10. And the line would always run amok. And along as sin ran amok, there will always be the pain that came from the death, the destruction of virtue and vice. You will always be a madman according to the good nature of God. You will always be a madman. That you being a madman, that's what he said in Matthew 24 as he stated this, y'all, and I'm almost done. I promise you I'm almost done. Verse 24 and 11. And many false prophets will arise and lead many astray, and because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. That's it right there. That's your death reigning. That's your death coming through and causing more and more people to be violent, to be hateful, to be prideful, and etc. That's the death that had to be thrown into the lake of fire. That's the death that brought on or the result of the curses. And when you are in that death, you are outside of the scope of the Most High, aka you are considered in the grave. You are dead. What happened to dead people? They go in the grave. Therefore, Hades was following death. This is all symbolic language. Okay. So when that death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire, that meant that the people no longer was going through the curses because they had become righteous. When this death and Hades was taken away right here, right? The righteous people did not have to worry about it because they were in a position or in a state in which there was no more division from God. There was no more the death running rampant inside of the sons and daughters of God like it was in the sons and daughters of God under the law of Moses. So hopefully this has made it plain and clear what the death and the hates, which would be the separation from God, the death and the was that had to be thrown in the lake of fire. The sources, this is and look at it, look at the sources, and see if I presented them correctly or not. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for listening in. Hopefully, this helped y'all understand more and more what's going on in the Bible instead of how more of the future is presented today. Elvin Israel, Assembly of Sound Doctrine Chandler. Y'all, thank you all for listening in, and it's more to come. Yeah, I'm done. This is the time we all want to talk or whatever. I'm done. All right, y'all. Y'all stay at shalom. I'm finna close these one by one. Hey, y'all stay at shalom.